Hi, Will Gethin here. Welcome to a special musical episode of Follow Your Blissters, the podcast exploring the personal stories of thought leaders through the lens of the hero's journey. Today's guest is musician, songwriter and soulful troubadour James Frost, whose breathtaking new album, All of Our Hands, is more than just music. It's a jewel born from a life lived at the edges. Walking away from the safety of job and home to follow a deeper calling, James took to the road on a musical pilgrimage that would last several years. Along the way, he birthed a powerful vision of creative collaboration, gathered over 100 singers and musicians, raised more than 20k through sheer passion and belief, and brought to life an awe-inspiring collection of songs infused with nature and community spirit. Sharing 3 tracks from his new album, this episode tells James's remarkable story of leaping into the unknown, staying true to the call, and returning with a gift powerful enough to stir hearts and awaken dreams. I hope you enjoy the journey. Hey James.
Hey Will.
Good to see you.
And you. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
You're so welcome. How are you feeling today?
Feeling good. Yeah, a bit sun-kissed from all the Beltane celebrations yesterday.
Yes, good to see you out there by the maypole. How was the celebrations for you? You seemed pretty enthusiastic at the time.
Yeah, I was working the maypole like a pro. First time in Glastonbury for Beltane. What a celebration.
Well, first time proper. You passed through on a previous sort of pilgrimage which we'll come to.
That's right.
And now you came back and done a proper day.
Now I've seen it properly from start to finish. What a beautiful ritual ceremony that is.
Indeed. So yeah, we how did we meet? I came to a gig of yours a few years ago in Glastonbury again. A friend of mine called Sophie Bolton invited me along, saw your gig, which was wonderful, and then a few years passed and suddenly we reconnected again fairly recently, literally the start of the year, and we've been working together since on your new album, All of Our Hands, which I have to say, as you know, I absolutely love the album. It's just awesome. I've been playing it again and again, and do you want to just give us a little flavour of the album? I'll let you tell a bit about that.
Glad you're enjoying it, Will. It's 11 tracks. I could say they're all my best loved tracks. They've been road tested with audiences at concerts and festivals. These were the favourites, and I recorded them with a live band. I've added strings, brass, percussion. I've recorded some big community choirs. I invited all the people that funded the album to come to the recording studio and also sing their voices onto the album. So it's been a huge co-created collaborative project, and so happy that it finally got realised and released.
Yes, me too. It's such a beautiful album, and wonderful also to see this week, just before Beltane, that article going to The Guardian, which shared the story of what became a musical pilgrimage of a few years. But yes, that particular article just covers the first step when you left Norwich and went off on this journey and wrote a song about it. And part of that, you came to Glastonbury, of course, for Beltane. So even though you only just passed through and got a taste of it that time. So it feels fitting to be sitting here now, sharing your musical pilgrimage, your hero's journey at this point. And yeah, let's dive in and start with the call to adventure. So I'm sure there have been many calls, James, in your life to do various things, but you're on a musician's journey, and I'm guessing like there's been lots of calls to step up with your music continually over the years. And
yes.
I wonder what call you want to start with today to start this particular sort of journey thread, as it were.
Well, I was living in Norwich for many, many years. I had a settled life in Norwich, living with friends, working for various environmental charities, and was doing my music somewhat on the side and growing in confidence, playing different venues in the city, in Norfolk, Suffolk. And yeah, I'd been living that life for many years, but there was a growing sense of restlessness that I wanted to take my music further afield. I wanted to bring it into the centre of my life. And so at some point, it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago now, I made the decision to leave Norwich, to let my life go, just let it fall. And I decided to set off around the country, and I booked lots of festivals during one summer. and set off in a big estate car that I bought, and fitted a mattress in the back and a roof box on the top, and I put all my things in storage and headed onto the horizon.
Was there a moment when where you recall the call specifically? Was there a defining moment when you felt that call and responded to it?
I mean, I guess it can happen with people that they suddenly have an insight that they need to take a certain step. But I think for many of us, we might start hearing a whispering of a change that's needed in life, but it takes a certain amount of time to really let that land, to really let that drop in, and often some kind of sign is needed from the outside to really kind of have the faith to take that leap. And for me, I was feeling like something needed to change, that I was feeling a bit stuck, like I'd lived in Norwich a long time and I was looking for the exit door somehow. And I went on a retreat. It was actually a dance workshop, and I brought this question of change to the workshop, and was really inquiring into that and dancing with it, and just asking, just like a prayer, like, what's the next step? What are you asking of me, life? And I wouldn't say I necessarily got a direct answer in the workshop, but when I came back to my house where I was living, I walked in the front door, and my housemates, my friends, said to me, "We've been given notice by the landlord. We've been living there 7 years." And all of a sudden, out of the blue, the landlord was selling the house. And I took that as the sign that I was waiting for. I wasn't going to therefore rent another house. I wasn't therefore going to move into some other accommodation with friends. I just took that as a sign of, like, life is asking me to take the leap of faith and move into the unknown. And that's when I packed up my things and left the city.
Fantastic, love it. It's a classic sort of a hero's journey beginning, and let's hold that little journey point, that crossing of the threshold, and just rewind the clock for a moment. So just to give a bit of context to this point in time, this cool moment, I wonder, just to rewind back to your childhood or youth, how music sort of became into your life.
I mean, from childhood, I remember my mum and dad always playing rock and roll music in the house. They actually met at a dance, jiving to rock and roll, swing, jazz, jive music. So they very much had a love of that. And my dad's side of the family is from Liverpool, and he recounts many times where him and his brothers are in the pubs just singing. They loved singing, not in a kind of professional way, but just gathering and singing around the piano. And my dad always loved that through his life. And for me, I started learning the drum kit when I was a teenager, and was in bands, and I quickly realised that music it's like another language. It's like another world, that it opens up another world, another language that you can share with people. And it gave me so much being in bands, the social side of it, and just the self-expression as a teenager. But being in all these bands, I was always the one leading the band in a certain way. I was always really interested in the structure of the songs, arranging the songs, telling the guitarists or the other members of the band, like, when to come in, when to go out. I was often writing lyrics for songs. So I was always really interested in that part of music. And so in my 20s, that just gravitated into me learning the guitar and me learning to sing and me starting writing my own songs for my own performance. And then it's just been a long and slow and beautiful journey of stepping more and more into that songwriter, singer-songwriter space, playing at open mics, learning my craft, building my confidence, playing my own gigs, playing at art centres, doing little tours, and I also went to a songwriting college in London for a year. So it was all just slowly building, and I recorded an EP, and made a beautiful video called Nameless.
It is such a beautiful deep track, that one.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and the video, the magical video we made in the woods, in North Norfolk, very much captures the spirit of it. So yeah, this was all cooking and adding to this feeling of like a certain restlessness, a certain like wanting it to go wider, further, wanting me to really follow that calling of the music that I'd built up over many years. Hence, this was when I started the travelling.
Yeah, it's interesting as you say that. We joked about this before, at the sort of that Bobby Gillespie moment of going out from behind the drums. In his case, Jesus and the Mary Chain, and then becoming the lead singer of Primal Scream, the front man. So it's a well-trodden path. So anyway, back to the next stage, On the Road, which starts with crossing the threshold, often symbolised within the hero's journey with the fool figure from the tarot, standing on the edge of a precipice, about to take that leap into the unknown. And your journey very much feels like that. You just step right out into this adventure without knowing where it was taking you. I think you said to me before that you were pretty much without a fixed abode for 5 years, and living mostly in your car, staying with friends. So it was like a house sitting. So it was like a real total leap of faith that this was going to take you somewhere, which as we'll discover, this road has unfolded to where we've got to now. And in your Guardian article, you talk of saying goodbye to friends and crossing the border out of Norfolk, and that's the sort of the threshold moment, is always crossing a border, or a border of some kind, or a boundary of some kind. And where were you hoping the road would take you at this point? Was it completely open-ended?
I mean, I was like a fool, definitely. It wasn't planned, really. I walked. After we got notice from my landlord, I walked down the end of the road to this car dealer garage, and I bought this big Renault estate car with the understanding that I could take all the seats out of the back of the car, which I did. And I put a folding mattress in the back. I put a roof box on the top, and it was very like a DIY version of a camper van. And I went off on a 2 to 3 week little pilgrimage, as it says in the article, almost like as a test. Like, can I actually do this? Can I actually sleep in a car? Can I actually survive like this, or will I be happy with this sort of lifestyle? And I booked 1 or 2, 3 concerts along the way to keep the music flowing. But that initial trip was so beautiful and so affirming, and I slept many nights in different country lanes and at the bottom of Glastonbury Tor, and in Dartmoor, and was just making it up as I went along. And maybe it was the first time I'd really done that. And I also had it in mind to go to these sacred sites like Avebury and Stonehenge, and coming to Glastonbury and exploring Dartmoor. I'd never really been to these places before, these kind of magical, bardic, mythical locations, to my regret. And so those kind of provided anchor points along the journey, and I was just stunned at how beautiful England was, how much rich history there was. Somehow I hadn't viscerally seen it myself. And yeah, my song "Old England Alive" really came out of that initial journey I took across sort of southwest England.
Yeah, and the song is about really relishing these time-honoured customs and traditions that you discovered on the road, and the sense of England still being so alive. And maybe we should just play the song and hear that. Let's listen to that one now. Here we go.
The days were long and yet fleeting as I made my way across the aisle, through the patchwork of towns, quietly keeping old England alive. I saw Ferris wheels and a May Queen dancing. I heard church bells ring in the many stony spires. And by the lights of the dawns I found you waiting, old England alive. Father, you lied. You said it died, but I tell you now, old England is alive. The fair wind blew south, clouds clearing, as I drove from the torn, underpainted skies to where the marshmen sing for the salt and the samphire, and old England's alive. Those books, they lied. They said it died, but I tell you now, old England is, I tell you now, old England is alive. Our stories are written in the ground. I'm alive and I'm home, home in old England. I'm alive and I'm home, home in old England. Yeah, I'm alive. old England. And down the St. Michael line, the stories are alive of old England. From the gold Norfolk shores, the West Kennet moors, old England. And how the money men they dance, put people in a trance, old England. Old England alive.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite songs on the album. It's a beauty. Yeah, it certainly is a sense, it feels like, of a sort of real relishing the adventure of that, of being on the road and discovering old England. Did it feel like a sort of real, quite a sort of rapturous moment for you in a way?
Yeah, let's go with rapture. That sounds good. And definitely a sense of like rediscovering England, rediscovering the beauty of England and the sense of belonging to this island. Because like many of us, we go travelling overseas and we see other cultures, and in some ways other cultures are revered and other lands are revered, and people come back with tales of other places. But for me, that whole trip was just a rediscovery of how beautiful England is, the history of it, the landscape, all these customs. It's just everywhere. It's everywhere if we look for it. And that song I wrote on my guitar on that journey at various stops along the way. I was creating this song, and you never know how these songs are going to end up when you take them into the recorded format. And I could never have imagined, like many of the songs of this album, I could never have imagined it would have ended up like that. Although perhaps I had somewhere in mind that there would be violins and like those kind of folky traditional instruments would be fitting. But in the end, I went to see an old friend of mine, old school friend of mine, Simon Keep, a great accordionist, and he'd been on my radar. I knew that he was still doing music, and I hadn't seen him in so long. And I went to see him, and he recorded the accordion parts, and he was in a folk band in Suffolk, and he brought the folk band along to the recording sessions, and they all put parts down, and that's how it ends up with this kind of spirit, folky spirit in it. And he also recorded the folk club that you hear. It's his local folk club at the beginning of the song.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I was wondering where you got that bit of recording from.
We recorded that in his local pub.
Perfect. I love how that starts.
Yeah.
I wondered whether it was a sample from somewhere or what it was. But yeah, it's good to know it was from your mate's folk club.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Keeping it real.
So we've done the kind of like the sort of precursor early trip. I think you ended up back in Norwich briefly, didn't you? But from then on, you were of no fixed abode for 5 years, was it?
Something like that. I mean, time got kind of lost, all the layers of the different chapters of it. I can't remember almost. Yeah, I was away. I came back to Norwich, and then I quickly left again, back in the flow of discovering England, playing other festivals, concerts. And yes, I was of no fixed abode for a good number of years, and that was about doing a lot of house sitting, looking after people's doggies, staying at the generosity of friends, of people that loved my music, that I'd met at concerts. One of the benefits of being a musician is that you have a big network, or people almost feel like they know you because they've seen you on stage, or they're listening to your music, they're loving your music, it's part of their lives. So you have a big network, some have a connection in the heart. So when I was in this position of travelling around, I had no end of offers of places to stay, and people that wanted me to look after their house, and some amazing settings and locations I ended up in. Sometimes I'd sublet somewhere or rent somewhere for a little period, and sometimes I'd be sleeping in the car in gaps.
And how much were you doing a sort of a day job, or how was your work evolving in terms of your day-to-day money?
I had some work, some freelance work, almost like from my former life, but I stripped back my expenses essentially in order to pursue this life as a musician. And as we'll go on to, I started recording this album, and that very much became a focus. So it was all linked in a tapestry of scaling everything back and following the calling of the music.
It sounds like you sort of properly followed your bliss, and as Joseph Campbell pointed out, hence the name of this podcast. If you follow your bliss, you're gonna get some blisters. If you really commit to, in your case, the career of or not the path of a musician, you're fully committed. You're going to meet all sorts of challenges. That's why this stage of the hero's journey is typically called the road of trials, because to represent all these different challenges that happen. So I'm wondering, what kind of challenges did you face, and how tough did it get keeping all this maintained, keeping this lifestyle going?
I mean, people would come up to me and say, "Wow, man, you are living the dream. You are living your best life. It must be so great not having a job and roaming around the country." And of course, like,
life of Jolly O'Reilly.
Yeah, of course there is that excitement and that freedom, that independence, that constant connection with creativity and the unknown and the mystery and letting things unfold. It's like, yes, that's all true, but you know what people don't see in my life and the life of any musician is the kind of it doesn't provide a solid income, and then I'm choosing to stay in all these different spaces and constantly adjusting to different locations and just living a bit on the edge. You know, and some nights it was like, where am I going to park up tonight? Where am I going to sleep tonight? And the car that I mentioned earlier, that, you know, I said I walked down the street and brought this estate car.
Let me guess, it packed up.
It packed up after 2 months. It packed up, and actually I was in central London at the time. So it'd been
that's probably a good place to be. You don't need a car there.
Maybe. On the way to this festival, and a friend came and picked me up, and I managed to do the performance at the festival, and then I went back to London. The car, you know, got assessed and it was written off, but I actually stayed sleeping in this car for like 2 or 3 weeks in central London. Just was out and about, and then I would come back to this car. Oh, that was a bit of a dark time. I can't remember where it was parked, but somewhere didn't feel that safe. But
no.
So, you know,
tales from the edge.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, were there any important lessons or skills that you had to learn to help you kind of survive such moments and to kind of keep going and keep resilient?
Definitely built my resourcefulness. Yeah. That whole period of time, and it really brought a feeling of trust, because I was really looked after by the people that I met. Somehow there was this invisible thread of just the generosity and good nature of people to continually, or just opening up their houses for me to stay, and this thread of offers, which one would never think's possible.
Yeah.
Right? If you let go of your home,
yeah,
the first thought is, well, where am I going to sleep? How am I going to be? Where am I going to be? And I just found it. I just found there was an invisible cord of one thing would just end, and then another thing would begin, another thing would be offered, and just really the generosity and open-heartedness of people. That's what I really took from that whole period.
Yeah, I guess everyone sort of loves to. I say everyone. A lot of people love to support an artist, a musician, or a writer. But some people like to kind of just hold out a hand of help. And I guess if you specifically see someone really committed and going as far as you've gone to commit to that, then they're going to go, okay, we need to help this guy.
It's almost it's like an ancient tradition of patronage and supporting the musician, supporting the artist as an understanding that is a certain lifestyle, and the community need to somehow support that. and a lot of that is kind of lost. But I really tapped in on that again during that whole period, and was very held by people somehow.
Yeah, so friends, allies. I mean, often in the hero's journey, there's often the kind of companionship that evolves. It could be friends, allies, sometimes mentor figures. How important were these kind of people? Were there people for you that came forward that really felt like they guided and supported and encouraged and inspired your journey? Like maybe musician friends?
Yes. Well, I mean, what happened is that I started spending more and more time down in the southwest of England, and down there I connected with a lot of musicians that really I loved their music, that resonated, that were on maybe similar paths. Just was connecting with a whole community of really great southwest musicians, and some of them were touring regularly, playing lots of house concerts and recording and like crowdfunding and recording albums, and really creating beautiful works of art as independent musicians. And this really inspired me and really made like the next steps that I took seem possible.
Yeah.
So in leaving Norwich, I connected with this whole other community and inspiration around my music. So I kind of got what I was looking for.
Great. So maybe we need to sort of traverse now into the dark wood stage. So I wonder what was the greatest challenge for you, the greatest challenge you had to face on this journey.
Yeah, I mean, of course, people face all kinds of challenges in their life that perhaps have a lot more gravity than what I'm speaking about. But the challenge for me was to bring a vision to life of recording an album. This is something I'd always wanted to do. I'd never really done that. I think someone of my generation, the album was always the big artistic statement, and it's hugely challenging as an independent artist to work out how to fund and how to record an album. And people go on all kinds of, like, independent artists go on all kinds of adventures, missions to get an album done. I can only tell you how I did it, but albums are just really expensive, and they're really complex to make when you haven't got a label, when you haven't got management, producers, etc. You have to figure all that out from scratch. So this was like the dark wood was initiating me. It's like it's calling me in. You need to make this creative work. Now is the time. But I really didn't know how I was going to do that.
Well, it was certainly incredible vision, and you totally pulled it off. Massive project. Hi, this is Will here again. That bell was just to alert you that we're going to take a quick break so I can tell you about the different ways to listen to and engage with this podcast. I really hope you're enjoying this episode, which has been released on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcast channels where you can also subscribe. Any ratings and reviews would be greatly appreciated, as they really help to let others know about Follow Your Blisters, and don't forget that we're spelling blisters with a double S on the bliss. To find out more about this podcast and the hero's journey, please head to my website, consciousfrontiers.com, where you can sign up to the newsletter for updates about future podcasts and events, and follow our social channels. Thanks for listening, and now let's get back to the journey. So you did a crowdfunder, which really helped, didn't it, to get things moving?
Yeah, and thank you to all the people that donated to my crowdfund, and all the people that gave me places to stay during this period. But yes, I did a crowdfund on Indiegogo, and I raised £11,000 in a month. And then I kept the crowdfund open and ultimately raised £16,000. So that was harvesting the goodwill of a lifetime from everybody who I'd met at concerts and festivals, everybody who'd been following my music, friends, family, like just calling in all the favours to give me an amount of money at the beginning of the project to work with. It would have been much easier if I had a vision of just recording my songs voice and guitar, which many people do, and there's many beautiful albums that have just an acoustic feel, maybe with one or two instruments. But I had a vision of something that had a lot more of a fuller sound, and I think that was born from concerts and festivals that I'd played with a band, where I'd heard lots of voices singing my songs in the crowd. They're quite anthemic, my songs, and I'd been in many festival tents where the tent is full of human voices singing my songs, and I was really wanted to capture that in the recording studio. But in that vision and in that choice, create something a lot more big scale that required a lot more money.
Yeah.
So I did this crowdfund and was really blessed by the level of donations that I received.
Yes. Yeah, so before we jump onto the treasure, just to kind of just quickly explore this a little bit, I wonder, it's such a massive project, I guess at times very daunting, and like, how on earth are you going to do this? And you set this amazing vision, but you had to achieve it. And I wonder in what ways did the album really take you to your edges? I think you mentioned that you felt close to burnout at one time. Yeah, what way did it really take you to your edges, would you say?
It took a long time to piece it all together. It took a long time to find all the right musicians. I did try working with producers at points, but I never really found the right person, so I was producing it myself. So
I think you mentioned you had a quite flashy sort of producer guy who just didn't get the soul of it, so you decided to persevere on your own at that point.
Yes, yeah. I did. I guess that's from being in the dark wood. There's a sense of struggle from creating it all oneself, having to make all the decisions yourself, having to work it out, and at some point probably I was getting exhausted, and I was like, I just need to hand this over to somebody in the industry who's got much more experience than me, who can just take all the files, all the recordings, and just sort it all out. So I spent quite a lot of money on booking some guy for a day who had all the credits of all the just legends in the music industry that he'd worked with. And I spent a day with him kind of redoing this title track, actually, that we'll play later, All of Our Hands, and he kind of deleted everything that I'd done to date, and then he put it all on a click. No. He put it all on a click track, and he shortened the song, and he sped it up, and and then I came away from him saying, "Oh yeah, thanks for that. I'll listen to it on the way home." And I listened to it on the way home, and I thought, "Oh, that's quite good." And then I put on the version that I'd created, and I just felt, wow, there's so much more soul in that.
Yeah. So
much more richness and soul in it. And so then it sort of affirmed me. I'm on the right path here. I don't have the training in music production, but I know my music. I know I know what I'm trying to create here. I know what I'm being called to make. So from that point on, I just trusted myself. Actually.
Yeah, stay true to the integrity and the vision of it all.
But it took a long time. And there were points where I was burning out because it was almost too much. It's a very big It was a very big project with a
That's
lot
massive.
of moving parts,
Yeah.
over 100 musicians and singers, the recording of choirs. There was a whole piece where I invited people who'd funded the album to come to Real World Studios, to a big recording studio, and forming them into a choir. So it's like all this great tapestry of creativity, voices, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic to be working with all that creativity, but also sometimes it got too much. I was burning out, and a lot of late nights. And
so if we merge into the kind of treasure station here, I mean, we're going to play that song in a minute, All of Our Hands. It's a beautiful track with this incredible gospel singer, but I imagine just the sheer bringing all that together and seeing it come together and really work, and that vision starting to come together and going, wow, I've actually achieved what I wanted, and it's really blessed and coming together. And that must have felt, fulfillment of that must have felt a treasure in itself anyway.
yes, it's like you're following the breadcrumbs through the dark wood. You're following the animal prints. You're following the track, the sense of it. Must be like that if you're writing a book, and you're just going step by step. And then there's certain moments where there's a knowing, like, I'm on the right path here. This is coming together. This is really feeling good. So some of those moments would have been hearing a choir, a big choir of people singing the outros to some of my songs, singing all the harmonies to some of the songs in the recording studio with the headphones on, the power of that. And yes, finding the gospel singer on this All of Our Hands song, because I knew that song needed a big ending, and I didn't feel like my voice could deliver it. You have to know your strengths and weaknesses, and I felt like my voice can't deliver the power that is needed, that I'm really feeling for the end of that song, for the soul of it to really be spoken.
Yeah.
But finding someone else to deliver that is quite a choice. Finding some other voice to deliver that on one's own album is quite a choice. So that was amazing when we found this American gospel singer, Kyla Jade, and she just powered through this vocal in 1 or 2 takes, 15 minutes done, and it's so pure and so powerful, her voice. And the day at Real World Studios with all of the followers of my music coming together, people of all ages from all around the country, of different levels of confidence, just wanting to weave them into the process somehow, and creating a day where they could come to a recording studio, have an experience of a lifetime in Real World, like Peter Gabriel's legendary studio, and singing their voices onto the album, and just hearing all of that, it just felt so sweet, and so kind of such a unique special experience that we shared together there.
Well, I'd heard about it from you, and then of course you released the actual sort of short documentary, didn't you, a mini doc about the day at Real World Recording Studios. And to watch that, I was sort of watching it live on YouTube when you released it, and watching all the comments come in, and yeah, for me personally, having heard about it already, and just seeing that live happening all at once, the community of people, the kids, the amazing gospel singer, something about that real community spirit that just felt incredibly heartwarming, and I actually felt sort of really quite emotional watching it. It was like, wow, this is amazing. And then all the comments were coming in sort of, well, on the YouTube comments, and then later on Facebook as well, with people who'd been there just saying how much it had meant to them, how it'd been such a special day in their lives. So yeah, that was really, really heartening.
It would have been so easy to somehow hire a professional choir. That's what, if you're in the music industry and you're thinking choir, you would hire a little choir in London, a professional choir of singers, and that would sound epic and everything. But what I did was created a choir from the fans of my music, from the people who'd actually funded the record, because I love this idea that you could buy a record in advance, pre-order the record, and then you yourself could go and sing on that record. Like if it's an artist you love, an artist you follow, you could actually go and sing on it. And doing it in that way is more risky because you don't know what people are going to sound like. But you know, it all works beautifully, and so all of that spirit, all of that kind of experimentation, co-creativity is woven into the album.
Yeah, so we're going to have to listen to that track and give our listeners a little taste, but and then we'll sort of segue into the return stage. But I think just to say that, you know, it's an incredible album, and in terms of the treasure, I think you know, I guess, you know, if you would die tomorrow, you know you would at some level, or if you were on your deathbed, you at some level would feel like, yeah, I did that thing, I did that big thing I wanted to do, and I brought it through this huge vision, and just having done that itself is such a massive achievement, and I'm sure you must feel a great sense of fulfillment of purpose with that.
Yeah, I do. I think, like I said earlier, every artist, particularly of my generation, wants to make an album that they're really proud of. It's about making that artistic statement, and really dressing up the music in its finest clothes and showing it to the world. And it's not a guarantee that you can make such an album as an independent artist, because of the money involved and the complexity involved. But yes, for what it's worth, I feel like I've nailed it, and I will always be proud of what I created there.
Yeah, you know, you got the magic power.
yeah, and it's so satisfying to have a vision of something that is, it's like a feeling in your heart, or it's an inspiration, it's a movement, but you don't often know the details, and you certainly don't know the how am I going to realize that, can I actually do it? So there's something very, very fulfilling about coming through all that work and all that struggle and living on the edges, living in that lifestyle that I entered into, and actually coming out with the
jewel and
with the music, with music that will be a soundtrack to people's lives, you know, for the future.
So let's listen to that title track of the album, All of Our Hands, which represents so much of that creative collaboration and community spirit that we or that you experienced that day in Real World Studios.
Yeah, this song was actually written at a community building camp in Dartmoor quite a few years ago, and the songs are very much about building community and togetherness for the next generations.
Great. Let's hear the track.
It takes all of our hands to build a brighter world, and it won't be nothing grand, just simple hearth and home, where the Lord is the land, and it's sung in common word that we all understand. We're building a brighter world that we'll leave for the children long after we have gone. 'Cause if we all chop the wood? Then who would make the spark? And if we all bow to the gods, then who would make them laugh? If we all reach for the same, if we all play that game, then who's gonna play your part? 'Cause it takes all of our hands to build this bright world that we'll leave for the children long after we've gone. One of the secrets is to believe it as if it's already ours. One of the secrets is to believe it as if it's already ours. As if it's already ours. It takes all of our hands to build a brighter world. It takes all of our hands to build a brighter world. It takes all of our hands to build a brighter world. Do you know that it will take? It takes all of our hands to build a brighter world. It takes all of our hands to build a brighter world. It takes all of our hands to build a brighter Don't you know that you can do it? Just don't let me say to be a brighter world.
So there we have it. Thank you for that beautiful track.
Thank you, Will.
So we're into the return stage of the journey, and the important thing about the return is that the protagonist brings something back to share for the betterment of the community. Obviously you brought through this wonderful album, all of our hands, and we had the documentary as well. Yeah, so I guess we're, in a sense, you're at the beginning of the return stage. You've just returned. The music's just finding its way out there into your community. And I wonder what would your wish be for how people are impacted or affected by your music?
I really wanted to make an album that was full of joy, full of life, that would uplift people. Not in a kind of superficial way, but something that just felt like it was really contributing positivity and wider perspective. That's the kind of music I write, and I really wanted to capture that. And so, I hope people listen to it, and it reminds them, it helps them remember that feeling in their heart when maybe times get hard, or when they're on their own adventures. Just remembering that we're all contributing to this uplift in consciousness, this creating of a brighter world, as it says in the track Together. If people take nothing else from my album, I'd love them to take that. And also to enjoy finding their own voices, because a lot of the songs they love people singing with them. So whether you're singing with me at a concert in the future, or whether you're singing with me in the car as you're driving about listening to this music, then let your voice just go free and wild and sing with the choirs. Just come back to the present moment with a feeling of joy in your heart.
I'm sort of finding myself pondering as we're speaking, like, why the album has been so special for me, really. And there's a real depth to some of these songs, and a sort of a sense of I guess a sense of real nourishment in those deep places that you go to in some of those songs. And then, as you say, there's these really uplifting ones in the mix that also feel very celebratory and uplifting. And it's hard to describe. There's something very alchemical. It takes you on a journey, and it's something, for me, it's hard to describe why totally, but it's a feeling, something feels very meaningful about it.
Yes, well, I think it's born out of a life well lived, and born out of adventure and human relationship. It's like, there's no need to compare, but we can say that it's not an album that was just written over a period of a month in a room with a few songwriters coming together and knocking out an album, which often in the industry is how it goes. Yeah. And they might pick on certain themes and everything, but that's not how this has been written in a very organic way over a long period of time. And it's got all of the other people's creativity into it. It's not just a digital album, and it's not just my creativity. There's like a lot of people's creativity and skills and voices all woven into it, and a lot of it was actually recorded live, or the foundation of it was recorded live with my band. Drums, bass, guitar, piano, voice. And that's so unusual in the industry now, to record an actual real band playing live together. And yes, I added lots of other things on top and other voices and choirs, but the heart of it is musicians playing live, like would have been recorded in the 60s, 70s. It's a bit of a throwback in that way. So all of this way that I've done it just gives this natural, organic feeling to the music. And yes, the lyrics are born out of personal experience. And the lyrics, I like to think, they're not just me talking about my personal pain. They're about wider themes, bigger themes that anybody, it's like the nectar has been harvested out of certain experiences I've had, and then given in a way that people can receive it. So I think the themes of the lyrics are things that people can relate to.
Exactly, and I think core, as you mentioned, I think is there is this real sense, I think, of a life that's been lived fully, deeply, imaginatively and creatively, and that you really feel that in the album, I think.
Yes.
So it's born of many years, as you say, of living a little bit on the edge and bringing something through from that place.
Yes.
And that's what I think the quality is very special.
And
for
in
it.
a way, like, can we actually bring something through of that nature without going to an edge, in whatever way that looks like?
Yeah.
Can you bring something through of that scale or of that dimension without without the edge and the dark wood, as you say, being part of the process? It's almost inevitable that you will go to that place to harvest something, extract something of with that kind of quality in it that you're talking about.
Exactly, I think you're right. So what's next? The summer of gigs? Exhausting thought.
Or time off. Well, I've shared the album at some listening parties. That's been very, very sweet, where I've gathered people together and told some of the stories from the album, and then we've all listened to it from start to finish, and people have danced, people have lied on the floor and relaxed, listening to the whole thing, and that's a beautiful thing to share with communities. It's also being played in ecstatic dance classes, 5 rhythms classes, movement medicine classes. Like, I'm hearing it on dance floors, and it's beautiful that it's being picked up in that way. I'm doing a remix for 1 or 2 of the tracks. Remixes.
Which tracks are you going to remix?
I'm really interested in remixing the choir tracks, actually. Hearing those choir parts, hearing someone else's interpretation of all those voices in the choirs. So yes, that, and yes, some concerts for sure. I haven't done many concerts in the last little while because I've been absorbed in finishing and releasing the record, but I can feel the wheel turning. And
I guess you must be looking forward to getting back out there and actually sharing it live in person.
Yeah, and in a way that will be the return, because the start of the process somehow came out of a lot of touring and hearing the songs sung live. That's where the imagination started happening of what would they be like in a recorded version. I want to create that. So the return of actually coming back to live audiences with the recording there, that's going to be beautiful.
Fantastic. So another question, sort of moving into a different sphere a little bit, is if you were able to give some advice to a younger version of James, say aged 18, today, from your perspective of hindsight, I wonder what that might be.
Well, James, aged 18, had long hair, was playing the drums, was headbanging.
He's come a long way.
He's come a long way. The hair's come off. I wish the hair had come a long way with me.
Just stripping back to the essentials.
That's right. What would I say? I mean, it makes me think of my dad, who was always a supporter of my music, but was very much of the opinion that it's a hobby and it's something you do on the side and it's not something you actively pursue. Probably he would have said there's no money in it, so you need to get a proper job, and maybe he's right, there isn't that much money in it, but that is not a reason not to pursue these things, because they give so much of the heart. They give so much abundance and richness. That creative life, that language of music and creativity, and that sharing of that with people just gives so much at the heart. So I would be reminding my 18-year-old self, who is perhaps unsure of that fact.
Yes.
And I would also, say to my younger self and anyone that if your creative life feels a bit stuck in a particular place that you're living, that can be a factor. Moving to different areas, becoming connected with different networks, can really open up fresh opportunities, fresh energy. And like I said, sometimes you have to take a risk, a leap of faith. It's like part of the process of being an artist. It's just taking a leap of faith into an unknown sphere and following that.
Otherwise, it's going to end up being fairly monotone and predictable, and not particularly juicy. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Or has that danger.
Those leaps of faith are to be embraced, and the moments, you know when the moments are. The moments come. If you're open, the moments will come where that is what life is asking of me, to take that leap of faith. And you don't have to have it all worked out or know how that is all going to land. But in my experience, in taking the leap of faith, it brings in the resources somehow and the support to make it possible.
There's a quote from the German philosopher Goethe, isn't there? You'll probably be familiar with it, where he says that, the moment you boldly make a commitment to some cause or some challenge or some goal, when you really commit to it, then Providence takes over and all sorts of things come in to support you with what would otherwise not have been possible. And it's coupled with a quote from a guy called William H. Murray, who was some explorer, who does a bit on the end. So it's the two of them together. People often think it's just Goethe, but it's the two of them. But it's a really interesting quote. It's exactly what you just said, really, in essence. Yeah. And
sometimes I'm coaching artists or helping artists with funding, and I often hear artists that it's like the leap is there inside them, but because they can't see how it's going to work out, they're hesitating. But that kind of blindness or that unknownness that's part of the leap, otherwise it wouldn't be a leap.
Yeah. And
you just have to trust, and then, like you say, Providence will catch you.
Yeah. Trust, take the leap. There we go. Okay, so to finish off this conversation, what more beautiful way to do it than playing the beautiful Rumi-inspired track that culminates the album, where everything is music. And I wonder, before we play that track, is there anything you want to say about the track to finish off with?
I mean, this is a special track. It's the final track on the album, and it's the one recorded at Real World Studios with the choir of people of all ages who are following my music, who came to the studio for the day, formed a choir for the day. And lots of kids, and so that spirit of it is all woven into the track. It's a Rumi poem, and I love Rumi's poetry. And there's also a beautiful story of regarding the piano in that song, because that song was originally written on a piano with me and Beth Coombs, who plays the piano on the record on this track. And we were in a lady's house. She's got a music studio rehearsal room in Totnes, where I live, and she's like an elderly music teacher, and she had this room, and we were doing a concert in there with Beth playing the piano, me playing guitar. And in the rehearsal of the concert, Beth started playing this piano part, and I was feeling like, it'd be great to have some poetry over that. So I started speaking this Rumi poem over the piano and converting it into melodies, and that's the kind of seed of that song. Was written on that piano in this lady's, as Margaret, her name, her music room. Anyway, many years passed of refining that song, finishing that song, adding guitar to that song, playing that song live, writing choir parts, and eventually got into recording that song for the album. And I think I'd recorded the choirs even. The song was fairly complete. And then I was thinking to myself, it needs piano though, because it was originally written on piano. So I think the song, we need to add piano, and I need to have Beth playing the piano. So then I was looking round for a recording studio with a grand piano or some really nice piano, and was really struggling to find a studio with a piano in situ that felt right. And eventually a friend of mine tipped me off that there was a nice piano in this old church that had been converted to an art centre in Ashburton in Dartmoor. So I phoned the guy up and I said, "Oh, can I book the church to come and record some piano?" And he said, "Yes, that's fine, you can come." And actually we've just got a piano from a house in Norwich where the lady passed away recently and her house was being cleared, and we went to pick up this piano. So when we went to the church to record this piano, it was the very same piano that we'd written the song on, that we hadn't seen for years.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally magical
Yeah.
synchronicity there.
Yeah. So thank you to Margaret
Yeah,
for
well done, Margaret.
lining that up.
Wow.
So when the piano that you hear throughout the song, Beth plays beautifully, was the original piano that we wrote it on.
Great. So quickly before we hear this song, do you want to just let our listeners know where they can hear the album, buy the album? I mean, the obvious places probably, but do you want to just say where people should go?
If people want to buy the album, they can go to Bandcamp. James Frost on bandcamp.com. You'll find me on there, and there you can buy a download, you can donate to my artistry, you can buy a CD.
Come on, support the artist.
You can buy a CD with a beautiful lyric booklet that was again co-created with followers on my music that all submitted pictures and illustrations of hands, i.e. all of our hands. So there's lots of pictures created by fans and followers of my music and all the lyrics. So if you want to buy a CD and have the full experience, you can go to Bandcamp. But otherwise, all the streaming platforms, just look up James Frost, All of Our Hands, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, it's all there. And the documentary that Will was talking about of the way the album was recorded, there's a couple of documentaries on my YouTube channel, James Frost Music. One about the recording of the music with my band and the other musicians, and then another documentary about the choir in Real World Studios. They're worth a watch if you want to actually find out more about how I did it.
Great. So did he give you a link for your website?
And my website, www.jamesfrostmusic.com.
Fantastic. Well, James, thank you so much for your time today. I'm glad you got up to Glastonbury for Beltane, that we had this kind of spontaneous opportunity to come together and do this podcast.
Yes.
That's wonderful. And it's been really lovely to unpack this whole story. We've talked about it a little bit along the way with, we've been talking about working on the album and stuff and looking at the stories, but to hear it all today and explore it bit by bit, it's been really wonderful. So thank you. And it's been real treat as well to work with you on the album and to get it out into the world. So
thank you for all your hard work, Will, and thanks for the opportunity to tell more of the story of how it was made.
And best of luck with the next leg of the journey.
Thank you.
Let's have that last track where everything is music.
Strumming and the flute notes rise in the atmosphere. If the whole world's harp should burn up, disappear, there would still be there would still be all the hidden instruments playing to their heart's content. 'Cause we've fallen into the place where everything is music, fallen into the place where life becomes the song, fallen into the place where everything is music, music, oh, music. And this singing artistic form, its graceful movements born from a pearl on the ocean floor. Like spindrift, or the edge of driftwood lying along the beach, these poems reach up to me. They're deriving from a slow and powerful plea, from a root we can never see. We've fallen into the place where everything is music, fallen into the place where life becomes the song, fallen into the place where everything is music, music, oh, music. Stop the words now, stop the words now. Open up your chest and breathe. Let the spirits fly in free. Don't worry, for any of the songs we've played, or if any of the instruments break, it won't matter anyway.
Music, music, oh, music. Music, oh, music. Music, oh, music. Music, oh, music.
'Cause we've fallen into a place where everything is music, fallen into a place where life becomes the song, fallen into a place where everything is music, music, oh, music. We've fallen into a place where everything is music, fallen into a place where life becomes the song, fallen into the place where everything is music, music, oh, music.
Thank you for listening to this special episode of Follow Your Blisters, produced in association with Conscious Frontiers. I'd like to say big thank yous to Michael Tyack for the music and to our wonderful partners, which include the trailblazing New Consciousness magazines, Resurgence and Ecologist and Kindred Spirit, the UK's Frontier Restorative Festival, Medicine, and here in Glastonbury, the vibrant Red Brick Community Enterprise Hub, as well as GWS Radio, who kindly lent us their recording studio and edited this episode. Finally, if you have friends who you think would enjoy or benefit from this podcast, please do spread the word. Thank you.